Hello, everybody, and welcome to this virtual Candlelight Vigil. It's February 2026, and it is good to be with you at Reimagine. If you're able um, and willing, please turn on your cameras so we can all see each other in the small squares, otherwise known as Zoom. My name is Brad Wolf. I am the executive director at Reimagine, and for those of you who don't know, Reimagine is a nonprofit. We are organizing uh, events and experiences like tonight's to bring people together of different backgrounds, ages, races, and faiths, and even no faith. We come here together at vigils like this one and other events to find solace in a world that feels alienating, sometimes disorienting, and sometimes hopeless. But we support each other to face adversity, to face loss, and consider mortality, and to support one another in transforming life's biggest challenges into purpose, into action, into growth, and into love. I want to acknowledge tonight there is an incredible altar that you're going to be seeing that we saw off the top, and Ezekiel, thank you so much for that altar. We look forward to hearing from you later. And the music, Jane, who we'll introduce later, thank you so much for that beautiful music to begin the program. Reimagine's Candlelight Vigils began as a response to a need that we saw, spaces to openly acknowledge and share our personal and our collective grief. Now, this is a candlelight vigil, so now is a good time, if you don't have one, to grab candle and a way to light it if possible. Matches works. Some people even have candles on their iPhones. At Reimagine, we create opportunities, mostly now in the digital space, but where people can talk openly and freely about living and dying, about death and loss, about grief and sorrow, but also about joy. Now, if you're able to share in the chat, we want to get that chat going. Something this last week that brought you joy. Let's see what that brings up in the chat. You maybe want to introduce yourself, where you're zooming in from, but let's see if we can get the chat moving. The chat is going to be the way this evening of acknowledging the speakers we have, sharing gratitude, asking questions, but ultimately we're going to be using it for an honor ceremony later in the program, which is the centerpiece of this vigil experience. So just want to also acknowledge that our mission here is a big belief that if we turn toward loss, toward injustice, toward pain, toward loneliness, toward suffering, and we don't push away what's hard, we can actually discover something by integrating those concepts in our life and working through them together that leads us toward love, toward equality, toward growth, toward community, and ultimately service. That we can both heal ourselves and one another and the world simultaneously if we are able to stay open, and to be with really the realities of life as they unfold. And so we're so grateful that you're here to participate in this vigil with us. Now I'd like to turn it over to my colleague Andy, who's going to share a little bit more about the kind of space we're creating together with your presence.
Thanks, Brad. Welcome, everyone. This is a collective space to grieve. Here we cultivate compassion for others and for ourselves. Most of us have arrived here tonight with some kind of pain in our hearts. And the hope is that this space is full of empathy, warmth, and understanding. It's a space for bravery. It takes courage to show up for others, especially with folks we don't know. And it takes courage to lament and to grieve in public. With all that's going on right now, here in the US and around the world, now more than ever, we need welcoming and inclusive spaces where it's completely normal to share our emotional and our spiritual states of mind. Finally, this space is not perfect. We might fumble, we might falter, we might offend, but we ask for your grace. What this space is not. It's not about blaming. It's not about imposing belief systems on others. It's not about providing solutions or fixing things. Another thing I want to emphasize is that although this is not a political space, it is a space to cultivate social justice. Our colleague Mazen Jamal has offered this definition of justice. It's an environment of integrity and wholeness, achieved through healing and transformation. When justice is present, we can trust that our safety and our well-being are valued in a community or a society. This is our aspiration for tonight.
Thank you, Andy. And so, if the type of space that Andy described feels like the place for you to be, you are here. And we are here with you. Thank you for showing up for yourselves and also really for your loved ones and for one another. So what is going to unfold here? So this vigil is about 90 minutes. We're going to begin with a candle lighting ceremony. After lighting the candles, there will be a conversation with our special guest, Rachel Eliza Griffiths. After that, Jane Rigler, who provided us with music earlier, will lead us in a sonic spa experience. So that sounds relaxing. Thank you, Jane. Then Ezekiel Goodwin, who created that beautiful altar, will lead us in today's honor ceremony. Now that will be your moment to enter the names of loved ones or things you're grieving in the chat. And so we'll stay tuned for that. Then we bookend the vigil with a candle extinguishing. And finally, we have some announcements and we say goodnight. So now I'd like to invite my Reimagine colleagues to lead us in that candle lighting ceremony. So if you want to grab your candles and light them, this is that opportunity. And if you, wherever you are, feel like reading along with me as I share this blessing, and then my colleague Darren Deb follows, I really believe, and we've witnessed that we can really start feeling the collective energy of one another flowing through the space. Okay. By lighting our candles, we mourn division, terrorism, murder, war, trauma, hatred, and all that is disconnected from love. We honor our personal dead, the dead across the world, and all of us still here together.
By lighting our candles, we mourn division, terrorism, murder, war, trauma, hatred, and all that is disconnected from love. We honor our personal dead, the dead across the world, and all of us still here together.
By lighting our candles, we mourn division, terrorism, murder, war, trauma, hatred, and all that is disconnected from love. We honor our personal dead, the dead across the world, and all of us still here together.
And so now I've turned off the slide for a second so we can all hopefully see each other. There's a button on the top of the screen to be able, a view button where you can switch to gallery mode. I just switched to my gallery mode where now I can see your faces and your candles. I'd like to take this opportunity now that we've lit our candles to maybe hold up our candles to the camera. It's special to have these lights connecting us. And we asked this question in the chat about the joy that you've been experiencing. If you could find any small bit of joy to consider. For me, I have a 4-month-old daughter, my first child, and it's been such a journey. And today she I just saw her downstairs a minute ago. She had figured out how to roll over, and that's great, a great joy. And so I'm thinking that it would be nice now is for us to just find one square, one stranger, and think about something in our life that brings us joy, and then take that joy and reflect that joy from that experience, that thing, that noticing, just towards somebody else, toward a stranger you don't know, for about 30 seconds, and just energetically see what it's like to both um, share that joy with others mentally, and also see if you can receive it simultaneously. How beautiful. Thank you so much. I wonder what that was like for you, just to take a little pause in our days to light a candle, to slow down for a second, to share some joy with others, to be with people we don't know but feel a sense of joy in this crazy world that we live in. Um, we're also here to open up conversation on important topics and matters of the mind and of the heart and of the soul. And um, it is my privilege to enter into the period of our real sacred conversation this evening that's going to bring that to light. Rachel Eliza Griffiths, Eliza, is a poet, a visual artist, and a novelist. She is a recipient of the Hurston Wright Foundation Legacy Award and the Patterson Poetry Prize, and was a final for the NAACP Image Award. Eliza's work has been published in the New York Times, the New Yorker, the Paris Review, and many others. Her debut novel, Promise, was a Kirkus Reviews and Chicago Public Library Best Book of the Year. Her newest publication is The Flower Bearers. Eliza, thank you for being here. You're going to be in conversation with my incredible colleague Andy this evening, and we're so grateful to have you here. Before we begin and you start your conversation, I just want to make sure you have a chance to share. Um, Later on, everyone is going to be able to share who they're honoring, but is there someone, when you lit a candle today, uh, what's coming up for you as you light your candle?
Thank you so much. I'm so um, joyful to be here with everyone. I'm thinking so much of my beautiful closest friend, Camila Aisha Moon. And I am also thinking joyously of remembering when my nephew and my niece first rolled over and when I first held them. And I am just grateful someone put in the chat to be alive. I'm grateful I woke up this morning. So thank you. And I'm so glad that we're all here together in community. Thanks so much, Brad.
Thank you, Eliza.
Hi, Andy.
Hi. It's so nice to reconnect with you here. Um, your book, The Flower Bearers, is so beautiful, so raw, so honest. Um, and it was an honor to read it. And now it's an honor to be in conversation with you. Um, Tell us about Aisha a little bit. Like, how did you two meet?
Thank you so much for that. And I'm so glad that we're having the conversation. And I feel really grateful to speak with you in the space of this community. I met Aisha um, when I was a young student at Sarah Lawrence College. I was wanted to be a writer, in the city, in New York City. And I moved there after going through a lot of trauma and a lot of hard things. And I remember walking into the library and that feeling when you meet a person who you know is going to be in your life, you hope forever. And, that instant, like, oh, look at this. This is like a bestie. And we bonded through music. Um, Aisha would have loved Jane's music. She would have loved Ezekiel's altar. So I feel like she's very present with me. And we were each other's kind of family in New York as young poets and writers and artists kind of going through a journey together. And even though she's not here with me the way I want her to be, I really know that she is still with me on this journey. So I think of her every single day and I still talk to her all the time. And I laugh a lot because we used to laugh. That was our biggest thing. We would just kind of giggle or look at each other, and then it would be like full-fledged laughter without saying any like sentence in English. We could just communicate that way. And I know now it's so rare to have that in friendships.
I love that. And Ayesha was there with you for the giggly fun times, and she was there with you when your mother died.
Yeah.
Um, and I read, in your book, she was at the funeral. And what I recall from the book is that she told you she can't imagine living in a world without her mother. And I think
Mhm.
that is something a lot of young people would have that same sentiment. I think
Mhm.
particularly for mothers and daughters. And
Mhm.
do you, um, and when she said to you, she could, she couldn't imagine living in a world without her mother, you had this response to her. Um, and it was about becoming a mother.
Mhm.
Can you
Mhm.
tell us more about that?
Yes, I think a thing happened when my mother died. My mother died in 2014. It still feels like it was yesterday. I still sometimes look at my phone and wonder why she hasn't called me to tell me about some show she watched on Lifetime on television, or what she's cooking for dinner, or who's getting on her nerves, which she liked to tell me a lot about. But there was a sense when my mother died, and I think people in this particular space, a big part of me also felt like it was going to be buried and put in the ground. The role as a daughter, the role as many things in my identity. And one of the beautiful things about friendships, particularly between women, is that we can mother ourselves. Like we become each other's mothers, we become each other's confidants, we become each other's sisters. And when my mother died, my mother had been ill since I was maybe 11 or 12 years old with kidney failure. I lived most of my childhood and adolescence. My mother was on a list for organ donor, but then she had a lot of side effects. She had a lot of medication, and she would just want to fight to see her children grow up. And that was her promise: is I will live as long as I can to see that my children become good people. And my mother was able to get a kidney, which gave us an extra like 15 years with her. But it's very hard to be a child and become a caregiver and know, where the story is going. And so one of the things that was really beautiful with Aisha is when my mother did pass away, Aisha had been on that journey with me and understood. Aisha and I both are, I will jump around with tense of like was and is because she's still very present with me. But we both are eldest daughters and have younger siblings and art and poetry and everything. But I remember it really feeling like a moment in my life where I was forced to change a lot of things about myself, and that Aisha was um, our friendship, our sisterhood was a place where I didn't feel alone. It didn't feel as hard because I knew there was someone I could really talk about everything about without judgment and how I felt and what I was going through. And it's really hard. My mother is still my best friend. I still talk to her all the time. Um, but it is a real raw pain for me. And I think in my art that I make, she'll always be there. She'll always be there. But it gets hard. It's still very hard to accept the grief that will come at different times and be a different grief than when she first passed away. And so I felt very fortunate now looking back with Aisha that she was there to help hold me up literally at a certain point because I was just really overwhelmed by the loss of my mother. I don't think I've really recovered. I don't think I will, but I keep going on. And, again, Andy, being in a space like this, I know I'm just not alone. And that's been a real joy to me that I can listen and feel other people's stories and what they're going through too. So Aisha was very beautiful in that way, where she could listen to people in this quiet, gentle presence, and you would just feel safe. And that was really special to me with Aisha and at that particular point in my life with the loss of my mother.
Um, so I think this is a good cue for me to ask you to read the poem that Aisha wrote for you shortly after that experience with you at your mother's death.
Yeah, so just to set it up, I'm reading it from the Flower Bears, and I feel um, grateful that I could include it in the story. Um, Aisha, I've written poems for her and books of mine, and she wrote poems for me, but this one, which was about witnessing someone you love experiencing loss, was very special, and I needed it to be in the Flower Bears. And now it's also now the last poem that she wrote for me. And so I will just read it. I actually don't think since the audiobook I've read it aloud in any space. So we will see how far I can get with this poem. And I appreciate the grace that everyone can give me um, if I don't read it the way I might normally read a poem. So thank you for that. Initiation for Rachel Eliza. Your friend has entered the tribe of those who've buried their mothers, and she is different. More of herself than ever, but a new layer, the effect of one unable to shake the sounds of leaving, to unsee profound rising preceding her own, waiting. What day is it? Does it matter? Where am I? Where are my keys? Inducted into a society of hurried truces and anointing that becomes a steady hum and the music of all things. The full gray sky held its water as she rained and rained, a rain that will never dissipate, her legs forgetting for a spell why they were made, her husband's arms remembering what they're for, shining, gorgeous grief. Death's terrible. Shining, gorgeous grief. Death's anchor, a terrible salvation to a family adrift. The sob and tremble of gone, gone, coursing through clasped hands. The duty of firstborn daughters, how it lengthens the spine and hollows the cheeks as she holds the widower's hand. Her crowded face in the mirror, morning walks with the grand dog, ambushed by epiphany. Oh, the baby she won't meet. At any hour, snippets of speech, sensation, and memory surge, stranding former selves as starfish and conch strewn on some remote beach. The thought of calling, of being stopped in its tracks. No, the ground opened, and we gave my mother back, shut down the interstate, and stood without falling among all of those stones. When mothers are lowered, daughters break out of boxes, unbossed by the minutiae that comes with breathing. You saw it happen. See it in your friend's furrowed brow, the revised way she leans in a doorway across a kitchen counter. Her mother has gone there, dragging her into a new here. This missing flares. Gone is the banter of carefree homegirls. A deeper cadence reigns. That grown alto, mama, heavy on her tongue, loud and loving in her mind. In lucid dreams, Harris to her mother's wellspring and might, she finally gets what really means. When mothers are planted, daughters begin a furious blooming. Thank you.
Brava.
Thank you.
Beautifully read, tears and all. You had written that she was a witness, Aisha. She was a witness to your transformation as a person, as an artist. I love that phrase, furious blooming. And this poem was the seed for that blooming. I also want to take a moment, Eliza, not only to honor Aisha, but also your mother, Michelle Antoinette Prey Griffiths. You've shared a bit about her already. It was a beautiful, complicated relationship. And you wrote about something that she taught you, a set of skills that you had to use when your husband, Salman Rushdie, was attacked violently in upstate New York in 2022. I'm sure a lot of us gathered here read about it. And for those who may not know, in 1989, the Ayatollah Khomeini issued a fatwa, a death sentence, against Salman for his novel, The Satanic Verses. And this attacker in upstate New York at Chautauqua was attempting to follow through on that fatwa. But again, going back to that set of skills that you needed, that you learned from her, can you tell us a bit about that?
Sure. I think when I was a child, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, from age like 11 or 12, I write about it in the memoir. There was a night and it was a school night, and my mother asked me if I would wash and style her hair. And this was like a big deal to me. And I was doing that, and we were having this kind of beautiful mother and daughter moment of me like taking care of mom. And the next morning, I went upstairs to say goodbye to my mom and to see her hair. And I remember that she was crying blood from her eyes. She was sick. And I was a young child. This image of blood coming from her eyes haunted me. And so that then became, after that day, a whole kind of adolescence, child, everything else changed. Again, that day, I think I write in the memoir, was the last day of my childhood. Like I became kind of almost like a parent, but also I became very aware of mortality and that your loved ones are not guaranteed to be with you in the way that you assume they will be. And so for really the rest of my life until the point where she did die, my entire family, we spent years going to the ICU, the nephrology department, the cardiac department, because there's all these side effects with kidney disease, hypertension. My mother had like a bucket of pills every day that she had to take to live, and they would make her sick, they would make her ill, but she took them because she wanted to live, and she wanted more than anything to be with her children and her family. And so during the time that I would be with my mother, I learned, as many of us do who are caregivers and just have family, what the hospital ecosystem is really like. Good nurses, first responders, just different people, doctors, medical charts, getting the snacks, getting the extra blankets, just the whole kind of world of the hospital was ingrained in me from about 11 years old. And so, as you mentioned, in 2022, when my husband was, stabbed over 15 times and on a ventilator, and I came into the hospital room and saw my husband in this way, this almost gift from my mother kicked in. And I had to look around, and really, it was very triggering to suddenly be back now in a trauma ward with also a lot of security and other things happening, and try to suddenly remember what were the lessons, what were the things I learned from years with my mother that could maybe help myself and my husband in that situation. And, I don't flinch at the sight of needles, blood, vomiting. I don't, but people are trying to heal. And in the trauma ward, there's also a lot of people who did not leave the trauma ward, and witnessing that and feeling grief for people who I didn't even know, and crying for them, and watching the altar be set outside their room, and then their family coming to say farewell, and in a way offering my own intentions toward that family. So in some way, my mother, I wouldn't have known as a child or as a young woman or even as a 20-year old or 30-year old, um, what the point of witnessing that suffering was. But now, in the moment that I needed to understand how the hospital system would work, it's not very new, it's very old. It really helped me have some armor and a shield and a way to respect the doctors and nurses, but also to be an advocate and to not fall apart, to not, I was in shock, but I also had to look around and say, like, what do I need to do here? Like, I need to have like a spiritual triage here so that we can get home. And that need to believe that we would get home one day was a big part of being in the hospital at that time.
What a gift from her.
Yes, what a gift. And I also, when my mother, when she passed, I was holding one of her hands and she was in the hospital. And she gave me another gift, which was just a different understanding of grief and of death, because I finally saw my mother as a little girl. Her face changed. She didn't have any pain. And so she continues to give me gifts all the time. And I just hope by how I live and carry myself and offer care to other people that I am paying forward the gifts that she generously gave to me as a mother and as a friend. So it's very hard to see that with our loved ones, but it helped so much to be with her at that time and to hold her little hand so she wasn't alone.
Um, you'd write about, um, thank you for all that love, everybody, for Eliza right now.
Really appreciate the love, the hearts, my whole screen. I'm just so grateful for that. And thank you so much for your care. I love it. It's like 4th of July in February with snow everywhere. And it's just heartburst. And I'm so grateful for that. And I accept it and I offer it back to you. Thank you.
We're going to talk a bit about some more hard stuff. You write significantly in the book in a very vulnerable way about mental health and mental illness, um, something that you've grappled with. And you learned growing up as a teen, and as a young adult, that grief is supposed to be, and this, I love this phrase you used, white knuckled. Um, with sheer will and determination, you can overcome the pain. And what you experienced on your wedding day, um, is profoundly tragic, profoundly unbearable. Um, it could be an ancient Greek drama, the way you describe it to me. Um, it's such a high degree of tragedy, but it was real. Um, And what happened at Chautauqua to Salman was horrific. It was a trauma to him, to you, everyone who witnessed it. Um, and you wrote about the shards of grief and anger that slice and cut me from within. You say, I was not wounded by the knife, like Salman, but I am also wounded and I live that way. Um, there's a lot to say about this. I want to get to you reading this passage that we talked about to do that. In some ways, I think you articulate beautifully in spoken word and prose, your emotions. I think you equally also express that beautifully in the way you write here. Um, but maybe just share for those who may not know what happened, on your wedding day.
Sure. So, I think recently when I've been talking about, the flower bearers, and I think even in the book, I say, that this was the best and worst day of my life. And, my wedding day started off pretty normal, joy and happiness and excitement and butterflies in my stomach. My dear friend, sister Aisha, that I've been speaking about, was supposed to, be at my wedding and read a poem with another chosen sister. And my family and friends told me, a few moments before the wedding ceremony began that, she'd come down from with COVID, so she wouldn't be attending. And so the wedding was taking place in September 2021. It was very, very small. It was very socially distanced. There were other people who couldn't come because suddenly they had contracted COVID and so wanted to be safe, and so they couldn't come. So this was what was told to me as why she wouldn't be there. And so I'm like a bride, I'm getting ready to get married, I'm sad, but I understand that it's a very serious time. And so we had a wonderful wedding. There was a little something, I have to say, looking back now, that seemed a little I don't know, it was a little shadow, it was a little undercurrent, but I didn't know what it was. And I remember later in the day, just after the formal portraits, I realized my phone was missing. I don't usually lose my phone, but I had wanted to check on my friend. I wanted to like take some snapshots and stuff of my family in this beautiful magical garden and my dress and my veil and my husband and all of that. And so when the phone went missing, I just suddenly was like, something's wrong. I want to go back to the hotel. I don't know what's going on. And when I got back to the hotel, in the wedding suite, I found my iPad, and that allows you to track your whole life and figure out where things are. And I received, um, just like this screen of hearts, a full screen of messages of sorrow and condolence that Aisha had died that day. And so my wedding day went from a beautiful wedding to a nightmare. And I still have a lot of blackout. I don't have all my memories of my wedding day anymore. I remember screaming. I fell. I was still in my dress with my bouquet. I hit my head. I think paramedics came. I had to ask a lot of people actually what happened, and I think they had a tranquilizer. And by the time I was conscious again, like someone had took off my dress. They took everything off. It was. I'm really trying to summarize it but there's no summary. It could be a tragedy, a Greek tragedy, as you said, or it's not the kind of rom-com movie that people would show, because anyone who has had a traumatic wedding day, it just stays with you in a way. But more than the actual wedding was the fact that one of my closest sisters of 17 years had died that day, and I didn't know because I was getting married. So that was what happened on that day. And one of the things with the grief is like I don't really have a memory of being like a bride or like who I used to be just even hours before was just like ripped away. So that's what happened on that day, and I am still carrying a lot of activated grief about so many aspects of that day that I'll never have answers about. So I have more acceptance now, but I just wanted my friend to call me and tell me she was okay, and she couldn't because she died. So
And yet, through all of that, Aisha's death, um, the attack on Salman, you write, you still get up every day and you risk living a life. And that phrase stays with me. Thank you for that. We should all be risking to live our lives.
yeah,
Um,
the risk is also just risk keeping your heart open,
yeah.
instead of shutting down, to risk doing something, however small, for yourself and for someone else every day, because we all can do that. And that's one of the things that's helped me is like, I can do one small sweet thing for myself, but also I feel so good if I can just do one small sweet thing for someone else. It's the simplest thing. It doesn't have to be a grand gesture or a big check.
And you're
Just
doing that now for this group, Eliza. So thank you for
hope
that.
so. Thank you so much, Andy. I do hope so.
I want to talk a bit now about the title of your
Mhm.
beautiful memoir, The Flower Bearers. Tell us about the historic role of the flower bearer.
Yes. So, The Flower Bearers, this title is also a gift to me from Aisha. When I was working on the book, which took a long time for me to really decide I would write a book, because then that meant I had to accept that this was true, that this stuff was real and it was part of my life story. Um, but I had a lot of objects on a table in my home of, things with Aisha, but pictures of myself as a child and my inner child that I was trying to reconnect with. And just, there was a lot of objects and physical things, from our loved ones that we hold on to that are really special to us, gifts that they give us or memories together. One of the things on the table in my office was the Celebration of Life program for Aisha, which was in Nashville, where she was born and where she is now, near her family. And so when I was looking over the program again, because it's still a shock to my system sometimes to hold it or look at it. There was, on the back of the program, it said pallbearers, and then under that it said flower bearers. And I immediately thought, oh, flower bearers are for weddings, like flower girls. Why is this on here? And then I started to do a little research, cue Google, and found out that flower bearers were actually, for about, I don't know, 100, 150 years now, these were traditional roles in mostly Black churches in the American South, where young girls would be dressed in white, very beautifully with ribbons and really beautifully dressed. And they would hold the flowers during funeral services. They would maybe go to the cemetery, they would go to the repast, they would help the family grieve by being very beautiful and having these flowers, and also that they would be these kind of almost angel guides for the beloved person who was transitioning. And online, I found a digital copy of Zora Neale Hurston's funeral program, and she had 9 flower bearers, which were young girls who came from a school in Florida nearby where she had taught. You don't see this phrase flower bearers as much in the North or in the Midwest or anything. It's mostly South, but in various cultures, there are forms of flower bearers. It's whatever the culture calls these girls who are kind of, they have a really important role, um, kind of in this maybe late 50s, 60s, 70s. This role was decided to be a little too much for young girls to be in that kind of position during grief and that thing. And so older women took on that role of carrying the flowers and things like that. So for me, because the phrase kind of reminded me immediately of flower girls, but then it also was flower bearers. And also for me as an artist and who I am in my identity is the phrase of like giving someone their flowers. And I love this phrase of like, let's give someone their flowers while they're still here. And even when they're not here, we can still give them their flowers, but also we can give ourselves flowers, which was something I'd not really been taught growing up, was like, I deserve flowers. And so this title, The Flower Bearers, for me became a space of hope and joy and community about celebrating someone's life, being joyous, doing something very natural. I'm a real nature person, so I love trees, flowers, walking in nature is very restorative for me. And so I love the idea that this book for me is offering flowers to Aisha. It's offering flowers to my mother. It's offering flowers to Salman. It's offering flowers to those people, all of us here who are grieving, who sometimes need to remember that we need to give ourselves beauty, nature, flowers, joy, so that we can continue to share our stories and share the names as we're doing tonight and share the flowers, the light. Aisha and I, when someone would pass away that we loved, we would light candles together and send each other pictures of our candles, or we'd get together and we'd have some candles out and we'd buy flowers. And every spring, there would be some moment where I'd meet her on a sidewalk in New York, and I'd stop somewhere and get her tulips, which were her favorite flowers, and I'd hide them behind my back, and I'd see her coming, and then like a magician, I'd whip them out, and it'd be this big bouquet of tulips and the smile on her face. And even since she passed away in 2021, I still buy the tulips. I still buy them because they're for us now. And they're a way to hold space for her because she loved them and I love them. So that's some of the things that I would say about the title is that, the history of the title, I then added my own story and my own journey and my own experience to that, but then wanted to expand it for a way for it to be, thank you for that tulip, Sheree. Thank you. Oh, Jane, thank you for the tulips. That's truly moving to me. I really appreciate that. So, it just, these are the ways that while you're grieving, you can do something kind for yourself, but also to celebrate the memories and stories of the journey because it's still going on right now.
Eliza, I feel like I've gotten a homework assignment both from you and from Aisha to buy myself some flowers tomorrow.
Please do. I want you to do that. What are your favorites, Andy?
Oh God, I think
What's in season right now for you?
well, I don't buy flowers. I don't buy flowers all that often, but I think if I got some, they would probably be roses. They would probably be.
Yeah, I love classic roses too. I love when the first kind of daffodils show up at the bodega in New York. And that for me, and also lilac, that smell. Oh my gosh, it's
Well, we're
amazing.
both New Yorkers, and I think we do. I'm remembering all those daffodils that were planted after September 11th, courtesy of the Dutch. They gave this beautiful gift to New York. So it's freezing right now, as you know, in New York, and I'm really eagerly awaiting those daffodils. I think I have time for just one more question for you, and then I want you to read this final poem, uh, Chosen Family. But my final question, and it is, where do you see yourself blooming furiously and fiercely these days?
I have to say, every morning I wake up and I just whisper, I'm grateful. Every morning I wake up and I say, I'm so grateful because I'm coming from a place where I was absolutely shattered. There was nothing left of my little spirit and my little self. And I had to start from scratch all over. So I don't take anything for granted. I feel like I was very deliberate in my healing journey with sound baths and nature and friendships and a lot of therapy and all kinds of things to plant a new seed of life for myself, that everywhere I look, I offer the shade and light and, the green sprouts of it, the fruit of it to everyone, because I did the inner work and I did the shadow work and I did the healing work, but it doesn't have an end date. Like, it keeps going. And so I'm grateful for that. And so I know that the blooming doesn't end, even when, in spring, like the cherry blossoms lose all their gorgeous pink. It's still waiting for us in the next season. Like, it's coming back. And then we can like admire it and praise it and like take all our pictures again. And we'll be perhaps a little bit wiser or more alive too. So my days are actually really streamlined toward gratitude, because I really understand, coming from real darkness, that things could be different for me and my loved ones. So, my blooming, you know, Aisha and I used to always say, when we're 80, when we're 80. So I have to keep that promise to get to 80, and then like maybe to take it to 100 if I'm lucky. So it's a lifelong journey for me to bloom. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And let's close this out with you for the moment with chosen family.
Excellent. And as I'm just pulling the poem up, which is called Chosen Family, I just have to say again how grateful I am to be in Reimagine community and to see all of the hearts and names. And I've been trying to look and read the chats to hold space with each of you and feel your stories too, and know that when we all sign off tonight, that we're a little bit softer and better and calmer, and that we're holding space for each other in ways that we understand how crucial and essential it is for us to be here and continue. So, this is Chosen Family. When you find your people, you'll still look over your shoulder sometimes to see if you're being followed. You're hoping one or two people you don't know will want to see where you're going. When you find your people, they won't ask you where you came from, because they'll already know. And if they don't, they'll be busy putting good food on your plate and asking you if you're hungry or broke. When you find your people, they'll tell you to use any bathroom you want, marry anybody you want, work side by side for safe hours with full wages without any fear of being harmed. When you find your people, they'll throw their star to you, offer you their love song, and say, you need to listen to this dance and shine with us, whether or not you know all the steps. When you find your people, they'll say, do you remember? And you'll say yes, until you remember together the different ways the whole thing happened. When you find your people, they'll say, wear whatever you want, wear the tightest dress, wear your hot pants, your fishnets, your damn birthday suit. They'll say, we love your black skin and drag and fat and natural hair, and we love you from your roots. So please just live, and don't let anybody kill you or tell you they've killed you and you're just fine the dead way you are. When you find your people, don't leave them, and don't let them off the hook when they are in the wrong, when they are trying to take themselves out of this world. Lay your hands on them and call them yours and yours and yours. When you find your people, be sure you've been preparing your difficult heart by loving yourself. And what you pretend you don't know, you actually do. So that when you see your kin smiling into your eyes, the soft or rough flags of their hands covering yours in a truth so light and fierce, you see, we all have been in midair for some time and could go higher and burn some shit up if you remembered what else is good everywhere and everywhere you look. Thank you.
Eliza, thank you so much, and Andy, for that conversation. That was honestly, apologies in advance if we have a half an hour. If I'm gonna just take 2 minutes to just say something in response to what we just witnessed and that we experienced together. Because tonight before this, I've been part of Reimagine, talk about grief a lot, and hundreds of events. Tonight, honestly, before this event, I was gonna write Andy and say I can't make the event. Like you should, like, I can't show up tonight because I just have like too much going on. I'm like too exhausted. I have too much work. I'm just like haven't slept for a long time, and then I didn't do that for some reason. And then here I am, um, and we are um, witnessing Eliza, you, and this conversation. And I've heard a lot of conversations. This was one of the most beautiful conversations I've truly ever heard. And I think part of it, and it's because I don't know why this is true or how this manifests in you, but it's like your veil to the world feels so thin and you're so exposed, and you're able to like hold, to be, tearing up and to be sharing what you're sharing, and the journeys and the challenges and the pain, but to be able to go through it and then have such a bright smile on your face too, amidst the tears at the same time. I mean, it's like, it's like how could something so beautiful be also so painful, and how could something so painful also be so beautiful? That like this whole conglomeration of what you're sharing, and so I just feel so reminded of this veil, and the desire to keep it thin and alive, and not get numb to um, all the things that can numb us. And I think you just model that so beautifully, and exhibit it in such a deep way. And before in the chat when you started, I had us, share a joy. I had us think of a joy, and this wonderful participant, Claire, was so brave in the chat, and shared about the death of her husband, and said she wasn't able to feel any joy. And I apologize for putting people on a spot to try to conjure some emotion of joy, when sometimes in a space like this, or in any space, there might be moments when we don't feel joy. What it was real bravery is being brave enough to say that out loud, and to be vulnerable and have a thin enough veil where we're not afraid to share what we're actually feeling and thinking, even if it's something that we think we should think. And I'm just so grateful for you and for Claire and for this whole space, for showing us that. And I just want to ask one question to you, just to conclude, like, how do you how do you is it, I know you're an artist clearly, and you have an artist sensibility, but like, how can we keep that veil? Is it something you've always had? Is it like, how do you keep the veil so thin and so exposed, and yet so, and move through the world?
Um, I'm so emotional hearing actually your share, Brad. Thank you so much, and I'm so glad you were present and that you came tonight. I actually don't know. I feel like I was born this way, that I do keep a very thin veil. That's best for me, because it would be very hard on my spirit to be pushed away from the memories and presence of my loved ones. And so I do think perhaps being an artist and a writer helps, but I also think I'm just wired that way, where I'm like a very intense empathic person. And so what I have to sometimes very often do is really watch my boundaries, and how much I pour into others and how much they pour into me so that I can stay close to this kind of sense of light. And what I constantly remind myself is that my grief is not divorced from my love. So the more I love, that might mean my grief is more intense, but I don't want it to be any different. And then I also have a lot of self-care things that I do so that I am able to balance being in the world, particularly this difficult world, and not feeling that I'm betraying my grief, but that that it's a companion with me, that I'll have it my entire life. So I'd rather like to know more about it than feel afraid of it or angry. I can be angry, but I feel like I listen to it and it shows me things and keeps me close to spaces that help me survive the pain and the suffering sometimes that it feels like. And I don't force myself to feel happy if I don't feel happy. And, it's just so much. I learn so much from it. I learn as much from my grief as I learn from love. So they feel really critical to also how I might make art or just be in relationships in my life.
Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank
so much for
you.
your the wisdom that comes from your heart. Um, and we're not the last. Hopefully, we're going to get to hear from you this evening. We'll be, but I want to now turn to you talked about how you took care of yourself, and we have Jane Rigler here. And Jane, you are a musician. You're a Reimagine collaborator. Your compositions explore movements, languages, and ancestral songs. Jane is a certified deep listening facilitator, and we'll learn more about that from Jane in a second here. Jane taught at University of Colorado for 14 years. She partners with neuroscientists and therapists to develop restorative and nervous system regulation techniques. Incredible. She lives in the Hudson Valley of New York, and so grateful to have you here with us.
Hi, everyone. Hi. Thank you so much, Brad. Thank you so much, Eliza. Thank you so much, Andy. And thank you, everyone here. I'm so honored. Due to time, I want to just take this moment before I play anything. I just wonder if we can, anybody who wants to join me, to do a little hand warming, to create a little bit of warmth and generate warmth in our hands by rubbing them together really, really vigorously as much as you can. And to generate this warmth, this good energy that you have inside of you, however you can. And then whenever you feel like you've got the warmth inside between your hands, just slowly separate them, and you might feel a little energy between them. Just create a little ball, a little sphere of energy, and just allow this energy to move and shape and be reshaped, and allow it to move you. And if this feels good to you, or even just neutral, just allow this to keep happening and to keep moving. And even if you want to just imagine perhaps, it's moving and generating good energy constantly. And while this is happening, maybe just even perhaps imagine a sound, a color, a shape. Does it get bigger or smaller? Let it just keep moving. What is the texture of this beautiful sphere of energy? And I'm going to play a little bit. And I invite you to play along, to sing along, to hum along with your sphere. And whenever you're ready, you can give this sphere of energy back to yourself, wherever you need it, or you can send it out to whoever might need it, anyone at all, in any place, in any dimension, a sphere of love.
Jane. Thank you so much. So grounding. Please, everyone, if you may, the hearts or gratitude in the chat for what we all just experienced together. It so perfectly sets up why we're here tonight, and we're going to hopefully hear from Jane at the very end as well. But I want to have that usher us into where we're headed, which is with Ezekiel Goodwin, who will lead us in the honors ceremony. Ezekiel is a death doula, an artist, a yoga instructor. He supports individuals and communities in navigating grief, loss, and transition through creative expression and ritual and embodied practice. He specializes in co-creating meaningful visual components for ceremony, including altars, the one, for example, that's here tonight, which he just threw together. So imagine if he had even more time. Collaborative memorial art, and legacy pieces that reflect a family's story. Ezekiel was an integral part of a cohort of participants in Reimagine's growth journey platform, and I'm so privileged and grateful to have you here with us this evening.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I'm trying to get my energy back up from that sound bath. I've got to experience poetry and a sound bath in one night, so I'm going to get my energy back up, and I'll stay within time. So, as you heard, I am a graduate of the Reimagine program, one of the cohorts, and I'll give you a brief story before I jump into the rest. I was a part of the cohort because I was a death doula who had lost my parents, half of my siblings, a few of my best friends, and my fiance. I had gone into doula work without ever getting to experience any of those people being cared for by a doula, and never had the chance to say goodbye to any of them. So I entered the cohort with a fair amount of grief that was undiscovered and really wasn't truly understood. So I went there because I knew that I needed to explore my grief. And by explore, I really meant face it for the first time. Here I am several months later with the ability to sit in community with other people and feel grief and feel pain, and also feel joy that I am not alone and that I'm able to connect to others. So I'll stay within time and read my piece before the honor ceremony. So I spend my days caring for people who are dying. It's a quiet kind of work, and it's a humbling one as well. When I'm able to sit at someone's bedside nearing the end of their life, a lot of things tend to fall away. What ends up being shared and what ends up mattering is love, presence, unfinished words for some folks, and the simple need to be connected to other humans. And because of my work, I'm surrounded by loss. I chose to enter the work of loss after experiencing so much loss, not for the best reasons at the time, but for something that's a lot healthier now. And in this work, I get to witness goodbyes, final breaths, and the weight that remains when somebody is no longer here, and the deafening silence that can follow that. So today, as we honor those who have passed, I do so with the deepest respect. Every life deserves to be remembered. Every person who is gone leaves an imprint that doesn't disappear just because they're no longer visible to us. But caring for the dying has also taught me something else, something that I think is just as important, and that's honoring the dead cannot be the end of the story. The people that I care for at the end of life rarely talk about their achievements or their possessions. They talk about people, they talk about memories, and they talk about their own life. They talk about the love that they gave and the love that they wish they had given. They also talk about some of the people that they wish they told to F off. But they talk about the time, how precious it is, how fast it went, and how they wish they had been gentler with themselves and others. Over and over, I'm reminded of how fragile life is. And I believe that that's not something to be taken for granted. We said earlier, we don't give advice. We don't tell people what to do. We don't tell people what they should be doing. So I'll tell you what I am doing. I care for the living. I check on my friends. I listen more closely. I offer kindness even when it's inconvenient. I take suffering seriously, especially when it's quiet or uncomfortable or really easy to overlook. And if I've learned anything from this, it's that ignoring pain does not make it disappear, but neither does postponing love. So the greatest way that I can honor those who have died is not only by speaking their names, but by letting their absence sharpen my care for the folks who are around me. I let their memory remind me to be present now, to protect life, and to treat each other with dignity while I still have time. So I care for the dying. They teach me every single day how important it is to care for the living. I invite you to remember the dead with love and honor them by showing up for those who are still with us. Thank you so much for allowing me to honor the people that I love today, and for all of the beautiful, wonderful message that you've sent with each other and the ability to be with each other tonight. Now I invite you to enter the names of loved ones and things that you are grieving in the chat. We are going to transition and play some music. You have the opportunity to offer that to yourself. Make sure that you engage with the chat if it's something that you wish to do, and we will move forward. Thank you all so much.
thank you so much, Ezekiel and Jane, for that, and to everyone for bearing witness to the names in the chat, to sharing the names in the chat. Just because Jane's incredible music has ceased and I'm speaking now doesn't mean you need to stop writing in the chat. That's available for you. And even if you're not writing it out, just holding it in your hearts, someone or something in your heart is something that I think collectively we're here to hold tonight and henceforth. So just thank you for the vulnerability, for the honoring. I think before we extinguish our candles, why don't we just take one deep breath collectively? On the count of three, let's take one deep breath. 3, 2, 1. Breathe in and out. Now I'd like to invite back our inspiring, magical leaders of this evening, Ezekiel, Jane, and Eliza, to lead us in this candle extinguishing prayer. And I invite you to read aloud. And when we're done after the third time, after Eliza finishes, collectively, we can then count down one more time, and we can collectively extinguish our candles with a breath of love. And if you don't have a candle, you can then breathe with us, which I know you'll be doing.
Would you like me to start now?
Please, Ezekiel, thank you so much.
My pleasure. By extinguishing our candles, we release light into our world to keep alive hope and the memories of those we honor today and tomorrow and for the rest of our lives.
By extinguishing our candles, we release light into our world to keep alive hope and the memories of those we honor today and tomorrow and for the rest of our lives.
By extinguishing our candles, we release light into our world to keep alive hope and the memories of those we honor today, tomorrow, and for the rest of our lives.
3, 2, 1. So that concludes our formal ceremony. We have a few more things to do together, but I just want to say again, and I didn't want to get through the honor ceremony, but Ezekiel, thank you so much for your beautiful words, for translating your experiences in such a beautiful way, and for reminding us of what it really means to honor somebody, and that when we talk about the veil, that thin veil between life and death, and how it teaches us so much. And you are an incredible teacher. So thank you for what you've taught us this evening. And Jane, thank you for teaching us through your wisdom, through sound. I mean, it's something we can feel in our hearts through the way that you express yourself, and the craft and the care that we can feel in what you bring together for us. So thank you so much, and thanks to everybody for showing up, really for showing up. I mean, honestly, it's like we had it. I think whoever was meant to be here is here, and this was perfect. This is so perfect. At the same time, it's like, why I feel like everyone in the world should be privy to what we experienced tonight, instead of, in pain in pain wherever the pain is taking place. This is you've modeled such beautiful healing and love together, and I just wish in my heart that we could create more spaces like this. And in your own lives, you can bring the same spirit that you've each demonstrated here to yourself and to your communities. So now, a couple announcements. Andy, I want to turn it back to Andy. Andy put together this incredible program this evening. Andy, this was one of, if not the best, vigil I've ever seen us create because of who the people you brought together and the alchemy and your questions and everything. So thank you so much, Andy, for what you contributed this evening.
We certainly had rock stars tonight. Thank you, Eliza. Thank you, Ezekiel. Thank you, Jane. Starting on February 18th, we're kicking off a 3-part series hosted by Death Doula. Shout out to all the Death Doulas. Darnell Lamont Walker, in conjunction with his new book, Never Can Say Goodbye. I hope you'll join us for that. We've got a wide array of guests, including TV producers, an obituary writer, a comedian, a designer, physicians, and other end-of-life doulas. So join us for that. We have Room for Grief on February 19th. This is a monthly peer-led drop-in space every third Thursday of the month. Michelle Thornhill will facilitate. And finally, join us for the March Vigil. We'll feature a conversation with Kelly Cervantes, who is a grief advocate and author of the new memoir, The Luckiest. She'll share her experiences of grief and growth. In her book, she writes about the deaths of 2 of her children, one to a neurodegenerative condition at age 3, one in utero at 21 weeks. And she'll talk about grieving her own body as a breast cancer survivor. And so you can register for all these events using the link in the chat. There's a link also for you to learn how to become a Reimagine collaborator, to host your own workshops, to host your own gatherings and conversations. So join us.
Thank you, Andy. And I as it's 6:30 now, which was the official end time of this program, I just want to say I told everyone earlier on when I had to share something with Eliza that it was going to then push the thing a couple minutes beyond. So if you have to leave now, I totally understand. But we'll be on for another 5 minutes, just wrapping up of a couple more things to share. But I'm just making good on my promise to stay a couple minutes extra on account of something that felt right in the moment. Ezekiel brought up this platform and this cohort experience. Thank you so much, Ezekiel, for participating. And Dara, my colleague, who's here with us, I think she's still here, and my colleague Deb, who on the program side are helping develop and really leading in many respects this platform and this program. Dara facilitated the group with Ezekiel that he participated in, where folks use this platform and connect with one another to process and really, it's what Eliza said about what you said about how small actions, small sweet steps, and small acts of kindness toward others can be healing for ourselves. We're trying to turn that into an intervention that we understand and know and believe and practice and help people process their grief through that pain in that way, because that is healing. There's a million paths to healing, not just therapy or whatever our culture says, and we want to help people find those paths that work for them and create beautiful things through their pain, even if those things are this big. And so this is a space to do that. It's a space for you to stay connected. We hear time and again after these vigils, this is a great event, but where can I extend this and have community and really practice this? This is a space we're building for that to be true. And so it's new, and we need your feedback to make it better and to grow it. We really appreciate it. We use arts as the way in to open our hearts up. And these are so many ways of connecting with ourselves beyond what we typically know about accessing. It's a space for reflection, for creativity, for connection. And the central tenet is no like buttons, nothing weird like that. We have a holding space button where we simply sit and commune with other people by holding space for one another. And that's the currency about how much space we hold for others, not even how much space is held for ourselves. Um, so if this interests you, I think in the survey that we're going to share in a minute, there's an opportunity to give us feedback about this experience, but also to list your name, and we can then invite you to this platform to try it out and to be part of what's happening. And you'll all be enrolled in some incredible programming. It's totally free, and we're just excited for you to try it out. And then there's some groups that are also happening that you'll be able to join later this year, like Ezekiel's. You can use the platform on your own, or there'll be another groups that Dara will be leading that we're in community more tightly going through a 10-week journey together. And so stay tuned for more announcements about that as well. But we're super excited about this and feel like it's an extension of what is in our hearts about the spaces that you are all making possible this evening. I want to conclude and just say thank you to, what? This is not even the right, where's my poem? Where's my poem? I wrote poems, this is poems from last week, or last month. One sec, where's my poems for you? Eliza, Jane, and Ezekiel. This is a poem that manifested as you were speaking, Eliza, just as you were talking, and it's just like just a way to say thank you. 5 lines, 3 syllables each, and it always seems to work. It's one form of poetry that I've discovered that I can use that makes me sound like a poet, barely. But thanks to the 3 of you, and the poem is "Blood in Our Eyes." Seeing blood reminds us how human we are, as do your hearts. So tonight, you each showed us what it really means to be human through your hearts, and I just feel like it's so sacred, and I so deeply at Reimagine we appreciate you to the next level, and appreciate everybody, and that's why there's a poem for everybody. Dara, Deb, Andy, the Reimagine staff, and to each of you for showing up, thank you. We do this every month, sad but glad, to mourn, grieve, grow, and love together. So with that in mind, I know that Jane, I don't know if you have to leave. It's totally understandable. But you have a couple more minutes to?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the thing is, what we're going to do before we leave is we have this survey. A lot of times we don't get responses because people go off into the world and we don't get to hear or learn about what happened. And so we're going to paste in the chat a survey about tonight where you can also sign up to register for that platform and give us feedback. And Jane's going to play some music during that time. Before that happens, Eliza, do you have any final reflection for us through this experience that you want to share?
I just want to say thank you, and I'm just very grateful to have held space and will continue holding space for each of you. And I'm grateful that my heart is more full now than when I first logged on, and that is a great gift. So I just want to wish everyone safety and care and wonder and joy. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
so much.
All right,
Good night.
thank you. So for those of you who are willing to stay for a couple of minutes, we're going to hear one more piece. You're going to say, and then we're going to say goodbye to each other. We're going to share love with one another, and we're all going to hear from one another as a collective community in about 3 minutes. Jane, thank you so much for blessing us with your music, and I'm grateful that for those of you who have a few extra minutes to spend with us tonight, because it is such a treat.
Thank you.
You can access that in the chat. I think there it is. I see it. Thanks, Deb. Thank you, Jane. Jane, just tell us before we hop off, what is the name of that instrument?
That is a bass flute. It's an octave lower than the regular flute.
It's so beautiful. It's so unique and so beautiful at the same time. And you have such a.
Thank
It's
you.
like you're chanting at, through it. It's
Yeah.
it's really remarkable.
Thank you. I
Uh,
was completely improvising. It was what I was feeling in this moment and receiving from you all. Thank you.
well, sounds like you received some good stuff then. Thank you so much. So we'll close the space tonight. We don't really get to hear from everybody, but everyone is witnessed here. What we like to do is, we've said this before. Except for Jane's flute, nothing sounds good on Zoom. Nothing. Especially cacophonously. But there is one other thing that sounds good on Zoom that we've discovered, and it's the word love. It's crazy how that happens. But if on the count of three we unmute ourselves, and all of us cacophonously just shout, say, sing the word love on repeat, it actually sounds delightful. It's almost like those hearts that you were sharing during the ceremony, but in audio form. So on the count of three, let's say goodnight by by sharing some love with each of us, unmuting ourselves and sharing love in whatever way feels right to you. So thanks again for being here. Thanks. Also, I forgot, we are a nonprofit organization. We only exist because of you. What a bad executive director I am for not talking about that earlier. But whatever, you're here, and I'm so grateful. Let's keep these spaces going. 3, 2, 1.
Love,
Love.
love,
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 love, love,
love.
love,
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 love, love, love,
love,
love,
love,
love, love.
love.
Love, love, love,
Love,
love,
love,
Love,
love,
Love, love, love,
love,
love,
love,
Love,
love,
love, love,
love,
love,
love,
love.
love, love,
love.
love.